Welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk with Debbie Georgatos. The second hour roundtable starts now.
Hey there, and thanks for tuning back to Ladies Can We Talk. We always say this, or I try to say at least once a show, I hate talking over our music because we love our music so much and love Krista Branch, who is the artist, singing the words her husband wrote. So she's just fabulous, and her music is available online, Krista Branch. Okay, so welcome to the second hour. We have our leading ladies here this week. I have Carrie Kelman and Jenny McGarry.
Good evening.
Hi, girls. And we have in the studio tonight our guest. I love when our guests come to the studio because we can give hand signals and enjoy our conversation more. So I have Jimmy Capra here with us. Hello, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Glad you're here. You know, I heard about Jimmy Capra from a friend who had him speak at her organization, and he could talk about a lot of things. He had 27 years as a DEA agent. It was Drug Enforcement Agency agent. He's also, prior to retiring from that, he was the chief of global operations, responsible for 227 domestic offices and 86 foreign offices, 67 countries. But mainly he testified many, many times before the U.S. Senate and House on a host of national security policies. And what I want to talk with Jimmy Capra about tonight is this movement and a surprisingly growing movement of legalizing marijuana in America. And everyone knows Colorado did it. They kind of, I don't know if they were the first, but led the way. But, you know, there's this idea, I guess I'll just jump right in, Jimmy. There's this idea that marijuana legalization is kind of the trend of the future. It's only the fuddy-duddies or the oldsters or something who are alarmed about it. So I guess I wanted to start with, so you've watched Colorado, what's happened there. Did legalization of marijuana in Colorado for its both medicinal and recreational use, what has been the impact in Colorado?
Well, the impact has been huge. And marijuana legalization has been going on for over 40 years. And the interesting thing is, if you follow the tactic that they utilize, one of the first things that the group NORML did, which is the marijuana legalization, is said, hey, we're going to use medical marijuana as a red herring to make marijuana look good, to make it look good. And they've actually been able to do that. So the push everywhere for, well, Colorado and Washington have recreational use. So they're the first two states in our country to pass laws that allow people to recreational use of marijuana. And for all intents and purposes, it has not gone well. Not gone well at all.
Well, I saw some numbers. There was an article. In fact, I will also post this on Ladies Can We Talk Facebook page and the ladiescanwetalk.org website, that the federal government released marijuana statistics about the growing negative effects in Colorado. Do you? Right. I mean, I can run through them, but they're
so it is, and the thing is, Debbie, we've known about this for years. We've warned not only just DEA, but the scientific community as well. Marijuana is not a medicine. This will upset the apple cart for a lot of people. It is not a medicine, and we've been fooled, and even legislators, which really gets me, because I testified in Austin last year as well regarding the marijuana legislation. I've heard excuses from everything. Well, it's a plant that God made, so it can't be harmful. I've heard that, well, it's not a big deal. It's marijuana. It is a big deal. It is not the marijuana from 30 and 40 years ago. Creative young men and women have figured out how to pull out THC, which is that psychoactive ingredient in the plant, how to pull that out to where there's a way you can pull out the THC, make it into a wax, and it's almost 80 to 90%. And what that's causing is a number of psychotic episodes. It is,
my gosh, from something in marijuana, psychotic episodes.
So THC, right, is the psychoactive ingredient in the plant, right, that causes you to get high. Okay. So, but they've figured out a way how to draw most of that THC out. And see, some of that that's being pushed into edibles, and all the packaging is, and the laws are passing. Oh, these are for adults. Well, let me tell you, it's all geared for young people. It's just like the sale of alcohol and cigarettes and tobacco. Who is the group that they're gearing it towards? It's to young people. It's geared towards. So Colorado has just surpassed the national average for 18 to 25 smoking marijuana. So they've already passed the national average. Car accidents. Under the influence of drugs and or marijuana is going up. I can go on and I can go on and on. And people say, well, you're talking about reefer madness. No, we're not. So why is it we want to lock people up? I said there's over 900,000 law enforcement officers in the United States who don't get up every day to arrest somebody with a marijuana cigarette. It's almost impossible to put somebody in jail. Now, let me give you an example, and you can cut me off because I get excited about this.
Go.
So as the chief of global operations, I was at National Sheriff's Association meeting when the Attorney General came in to speak to them. And the Attorney General's position at the time, Eric Holder.
Okay.
So the Attorney General's position at the time, in which we had to brief the Attorney General probably every couple of weeks, we had to go over to there. So the Attorney General started talking about we have too many people of color in jail for simple possession. At which time a sheriff from a major city in Florida raised his hand and politely said, please, Attorney General, don't say this anymore. So you need to stop saying this because we don't have that. He said it's impossible, and these are things that law enforcement know. It's impossible to put somebody in jail in an institution for a small amount of marijuana. But that's been the false narrative that's going around. Oh, we're locking these poor kids up for nothing. We don't have time for that, number one. Number two, here, what's happening is, so if you've got a career offender, so take this, who's out on probation for about the fourth or fifth time, right? And he gets picked up holding a small amount. He goes to jail because he's in violation of that probation. And then some of the legalizers use that. See, he got locked up with less than an ounce. Isn't this terrible? He's doing time.
So the first-time offenders to be locked up, or someone who's no priors, one joint or whatever.
And most cities and states have gone to where you're getting a ticket. Over 30 years ago, they pulled somebody over. A friend of mine pulled somebody over on the side of the road because he was smoking a bong, weaving in and out of traffic. And when the California Highway Patrol came up, we thought back then, we're young ages, we thought he was going to be arrested. They said, no, we're writing him a ticket for it. It's a small amount. We don't have time for this. And a lot of states have done that.
Wow. I'm going to tell our listeners very quickly because, as I said, I will put this on the website, but this is an issue. If you think, well, this is only crazy Colorado or crazy Washington, here in the great state of Texas, we have a Republican elected official, a state representative who's been pushing legalization of marijuana. I'm just going to run through the quickest list, and because these things matter when you think. And I have to say, people in my generation, I'm over 30. People think, well, it's not that big a deal. Lots of kids smoke pot in college, but the strength of what they're smoking has changed, and the prevalence has changed. So the quick thing, 2014, when retail marijuana businesses began opening in Colorado, so meaning just like for storefront, like right next door to your favorite nails place. Go get your hair done, strip center, and next thing is a marijuana retail place. Because those have begun to open, marijuana-related traffic deaths have increased 32%. 32%. Almost 20% of all traffic deaths are marijuana-related. And the other huge increase in emergency room visits have increased by 29%. And even the very first year, 2013, when marijuana was legalized in Colorado teenagers now rank third in the nation for marijuana use and 56% higher than the national average. Yeah. Now, I know Jimmy, you alluded to that a moment ago, but this whole idea of we'll keep it legal but rare, kind of, which is kind of what the advocates are saying. It's really just going to help out. But what is the answer to seriously, what is the answer to someone who says, but I read or I believe that marijuana could help my child who's autistic, right, my mother who has glaucoma? What's the answer to that? So
the answer to that is that's what the legalizers have used, is this whole position of the medicinal use of the drug. So you have to ask yourself, so you're saying smoked marijuana? You're talking about smoked marijuana, because that's what's underlying is we need to legalize this because we need to help children who have epilepsy, autism, you name every disease possible. This is why. So there's an emotional part of the tactic and emotional attachments. We watched it grow in California. They said we have to help AIDS patients because it helps them. But the issue is, let me just read a series of, it is not a medicine, right? The Institute of Medicine, the American Society of Addiction and Medicine, American Medical Association, American Cancer Society, American Academic of Pediatrics, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, the American Glaucoma Society, and the American Academy of Ophthalmology, just to cite a few, all agree that the states that have passed medicinal marijuana for those reasons to help people, this is unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. So we don't make medicines that way in our country. There has to be strict protocols. We've got a guy named Bill and Ted behind a counter saying, here's what you need for your stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Here you go. Plus for children, right? That's the emotional time. That's when I went and testified in Austin. What I found in Austin is and your heart breaks. I have 6 kids. So your heart breaks. So this man and woman, and he's a professional, brought their kid in who's dying. I mean, so before I testify, he's dying. So it changes the whole mood of the legislators and everybody else, and says we can't get this marijuana oil that has all this promise. Well, there's no studies. There's nothing there, and they're hanging their hat on that this is somehow going to help them. Here is what shows a little bit of within the plant. There's a component within the plant called a cannabinoid. It's a CBD. You'll hear a lot about it. Mm-hmm. So CBDs, which doesn't have the psychoactive ingredient in it. So there are a couple of pharmaceutical companies that are already producing some of this spray, a sublingual spray, that there may or may not be still not enough studies that is going to help people. But the push is if I put moms and children in front of the legislator, we just need to legalize this because we need this to happen. But the Food and Drug Administration has already sent out these warnings to a lot of these companies that are creating this oil. Say, this is this is not how medicines are. You have to stop this.
Because they haven't gone through the testing we do for every other
Exactly.
drug, to
There's a
say the
rigorous-
FDA
right,
trials and
protocol.
tests.
And we're not. And the other argument is that the DEA is not allowing people to do that. No, we've given out. There's a registration process. DEA has waived the registration process, which is pretty strict. You have to hold pretty strict protocols to a number of companies who are scientific companies that have real doctors and real chemists and real men and women who study molecular biology and chemistry, has waived the registration process so they can study whether or not there's a promise with some of the CBDs. But the push behind it is we want this legalization issue. And the scary part is this is a national security issue for us. And I had people look at me and shake their head. Here's from a national security issue. For 2 years in a row, as the Chief Global Operations, I go to the International Drug Enforcement Conference where we meet with our partners from all around the world. Most of them are all our allies, a few somewhere in between. So they come here, we share tactics, we share. 2 years ago, I sat in a meeting to almost now these are everybody from assistant prime ministers to heads of federal law enforcement, and to the T when Colorado and Washington passed this law. And by the way, the Attorney General and this administration did nothing, did not act on their constitutional obligation to the law to do anything. They sat back and they did nothing. Almost to the letter of the men and women who sat across from me asked me, why are you doing this? Now here's why are you doing this? As a matter of fact, the Minister of Defense of Colombia met with me, okay, and said, Jim, he didn't say, why is America? He says, Jimmy, why are you doing this? He said, let me tell you something. I'm negotiating with the FARC. We have thousands of our police officers, military that killed each year. Now, you tell me why I shouldn't negotiate with them so that they can grow marijuana in a certain part of the land. Why I shouldn't. You tell me why I shouldn't allow them to do that when you, the United States, are passing laws to allow this recreational use. You hold your finger against us. But look what you're doing. And here's the crazy thing. So we're signatories to national treaties, international treaties. So when the United States didn't do anything, so for years we've used the State Department and others to say, hey, whatever country it is, you're passing laws that are going to allow manufacture of controlled substances or drugs. We want to hold you to this treaty. And we've been successful in a number of events to do this. But here we are. We get 2 states that passed, right, recreational use. And then the turnaround, and this current administration says, well, we're not in violation of the treaty. We're not in violation of the treaty, as if Colorado and Washington don't exist in the United States. It's absurd. It's absurd. But you have to ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. I think the thing is, why is this? I think, and I tell people all the time, this is about the next generation. This is about what we're going to leave to the next generation. And you have to ask yourself why there is a push between several billionaires around the country, as well as a lot of liberal groups that want to pass recreational marijuana use. And it won't stop with marijuana. I just want to let you know that. It will not stop.
Yeah, actually, you raised a point. I've been trying to run through some points and you were talking, and I'll loop back to you. But on a different show that I sometimes co-host, we had a guest on who had gotten through a terrible time in his life, became addicted to major kinds of drugs. I don't know what it was. I don't think he was into heroin, but he'd gotten addicted to various, and he made the point that not everyone who smokes marijuana graduates to bigger, tougher drugs, but everyone who's addicted to the really bad stuff, and I'm sorry, I'm being ignorant, heroin, whatever the things are, start with marijuana.
That's
it's
right.
a gateway drug. You leave the roadway, you go over the guardrails to the side and get off onto something, and then you're okay with, you go on to the next. You know what we should probably do? Well, let's take a quick break here. We are, as happens all the time, we're a little bit long in this segment, and I want to, can you stay another segment?
Yeah,
One more
sure.
segment?
Yeah,
Okay.
happy to.
So plus I want to have Jenny and Carrie, I know they both have things to say, and everyone's been listening with rapt attention to Jimmy Capra, our guest today, who is a former DEA agent and expert on the impact of legalization of marijuana. So we're going to go off to our break, and when we come back, talk a little more about marijuana legalization. How do you respond to it with empathy for those who claim they need it for medicinal purposes? And what road are we taking America down if we continue listening to those who want to legalize marijuana? It's Debbie Georgatos, Carrie Kellerman, Jenny McGarry, and Jimmy Capra on Ladies Can We Talk. Come back after our break. Hey there, welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk. We're talking tonight with Jimmy Capra, who is a 27-plus year veteran of the Drug Enforcement Agency, and he has worked around the world and testified in the Senate and the House about the impact of illegal drugs, what it does to society. And so we kept him for another segment because we had so many follow-up things, and everyone has a question. So Carrie, you were going to say something first, I think.
Yeah, I heard you say that it's stronger than what people used to smoke 30 years ago. So tell me, how much stronger, and is it addictive?
So we used to call, it's called weed. Marijuana is called weed because you can grow it anywhere. Mm-hmm. You plant it and you put a little water on it, and it's usually like 1%, 1 or 2%. If you were lucky years ago, if it was 3%. But like anything else, you get somebody who knows a little bit about botany, and now you can yield as much as 15% of the THC. So what you're drawing on it is a heck of a lot stronger and much more. More powerful. It is not as my buddy Dr. Kevin Sabet, who has an outfit called Smart Approaches to Marijuana. It's a great, terrific site, and he says this is not your grandfather's or your mother or father's marijuana anymore. It's much more powerful, and like I said, people have figured out how to draw the highest percentage of it out, and it's having and people are having psychotic episodes. We've had kids jump out of windows. We've had a husband with no
Sounds
family
like
abuse
LSD
issue.
almost.
Yeah,
It does.
no family abuse issues. He's on the substance. The wife's on the phone with 911 saying something's wrong. He ate one of these edibles. He gets a gun and he kills his wife. Shoots her right in the head.
Oh my gosh.
No history at all. And then the marijuana industry says, no, those things are very rare. Well, let me ask you something. How many do we need?
Yeah,
How many?
it's like terrorism. How many terrorists we need?
How many do we need? And again, this is not. When I talk about this thing, people say, "Well, you're the former federal narcotics agent. You want to lock people up." It's not about that. It's about our country and the security of our country and what we spend, what we're going to spend, what we're spending now a year on substance abuse. Do you know that businesses lose $81 billion a year because of substance abuse.
And that really plays into what I wanted to ask about, which is how is this affecting the businesses where we have legalized marijuana? How is this affecting employers? How is it affecting the small businesses?
Right.
The businesses that are supposed to be family friendly when you have the marijuana shop opening next door.
Right, and it is difficult if you want. And I have a number of friends, and also a former partner of mine who actually ran the office in Denver and our office of training. And he says they have business friends that say we have a pot shop that popped up alongside of us, and and we're next to a restaurant, or they want to start a restaurant or something. Because we don't want this. We don't want this there, so they'll close up shop and move somewhere else. By the way, just so we're clear, there are a number of communities throughout Colorado that have passed ordinances against the recreational sales. So there are a growing number of communities throughout Colorado that are stopping that. Downtown Denver, which is just a beautiful place, the homeless rate of young people there is skyrocketing. Like I said, the chief of police begged other chiefs during the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, please don't let this happen to your community. So we're not talking about, we're talking about the impact not just locally, but throughout the state and across the country. And the fear, and by the way, some of the same issues, these are some of the same issues that are going on in Washington as well. And again,
the state of Washington.
The state of Washington, yes. The reason we're having this issue, and I couldn't say it, the reason we're down this road so far is because of the administrators' lack. They absolutely refused. I couldn't say it when I was with DEA. They absolutely refused to do anything about this. They absolutely. We have got a copy of a letter from, I think, the governor from the state of Washington to the attorney general saying, listen, I want to know if you're going to come after us for this, because if you are, I'm going to veto this. I'm not going to allow it to go. They never responded. They just never responded.
You know, we're talking with Jimmy Capra, who's a former DEA agent and an expert in the impact on legalizing marijuana. And we have, as you know, we talked about 2 states that now have recreational use legalized, and it's like 17 states where there's
17 to 22 states are looking at anything from recreational use to medicinal use. Now and this is what Texas did. See, medicinal, when they start talking about medical use, that's the slippery slope. Yes, right. We have to help the people. How is this? It is not a medicine. So how is this going to do? Would you, if you need the benefits of morphine, why don't you buy some opium and smoke opium? Right? We don't do that, right? We get a legitimate, go to a doctor and says, right. But for this, the push, if you see the tactic behind it, is really quite evil. We're going to get our foot in the door.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of the same thing the British did to the Chinese with opium?
Very good. That's the first. I tell people all the time, and I'm sure the Brits get mad at me when I talk about it, but they were the first drug trafficking organization. The Crown was, and they were moving opium in there. And by the way, this is so cool. When I talk about this, when I go out, when people ask me about it, I said, well, the first drug war, the opium wars, were between the Brits and the Chinese. And the Chinese were trying to keep it from coming in.
Yeah.
Because they knew what it did to their citizenry.
They knew what it did.
Yeah.
The history is ripe. But guess what? Right up, the opium use was rampant in China up to 1942. Right up to 1942. Some social scientists say as much as 50% of the adult male population was addicted to opium, they believe. And then what happened in 1942? Who came into power in China and started a guy named Mao, and he started killing people. That's what he did. He started killing people off. By the way, China still has a huge substance abuse problem.
You know, we're unfortunately near the end of this segment. We've got to wrap up, but we have with us this evening Jimmy Capra, the former DEA agent. I really want to talk about this issue tonight because this show is for everyone, but women voters tend to be swayed by emotional issues. And so the legalization of marijuana is a pressing issue in many states. Texas is considering it. We have a Republican, Texas David Simpson, pushing this. And this is something we have to go into with our eyes open, because you can hear people say, well, my child has autism or epilepsy, and you're withholding the only thing that can help. And that's why I want to have an expert come and tell us, this is snake oil, folks. Mm-hmm. This is snake oil. This is not approved medicine that's proven to heal and help anyone. It is just people who, backed by NORML, which is just a bunch of pot smokers who wanted to get pot legal every place, backed by them trying to get states to buy into the foot in the door, legalize marijuana for medicinal purposes, and then, hey, once it's here and it spreads, it's acceptable, doesn't seem to be hurting anybody, we turn into Colorado. And the other thing that's happening is there is just not enough publicity about the real impact and harm on society and businesses and children and our young people, because when you legalize, even if you say you have to be 18 to purchase, the truth is the vulnerable population without the attentive parents, the kids who don't have no supervision at home, the kids who are just already in the edge of moving over the guardrails are the ones most enticed and most hurt. And they're the ones we should be protecting. So, Jimmy Capra, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was great.
Great to talk to you. We'll have you back again. We're going to watch this.